the Lord cares about the nations. It's all throughout the Bible. And this is what he does. The Lord is all about mission. The Lord is a missional God. He desires that everyone come to a saving knowledge of Christ.
So tell us specifically, what does World Link Ministries do? This is something your dad started, is that right? And then you took it over. So kind of give us the elevator pitch as to what it is you guys provide and what it is you do.
Yeah. Well, my dad still is in the organization. He's our chairman and CEO. We're in a little bit of a transition period, and but in the meantime, what are the gist of what we do? Dad really began this because he was in Spain and he was helping to lead a church of about 80 people. And he thought, if I'm here for the next 30 years, I probably will just have a church that might grow up to 100, but I'm going to be focused on this group. Because in Spain, the average size church, evangelical church, is about 80 people. And so he felt like, man, but if I can train 10 other guys and they're all focused, then we're going to reach beyond that. And so it was a discipleship and a multiplying disciples model, but he wanted evangelism to really be infused in that. And he thought, if we can give away a seminary training, which in the States will cost you an arm and a leg, but if we can give that away for free, and then we can help to fund these guys so they can be in full-time ministry, this will really grow. And it took off. In Spain, we have graduated over 2,500 graduates, and we've seen about 150, I believe 150 churches planted as a result of all that. And that's Spain. Spain is difficult. But then because of what was going on in Spain, we thought, well, why don't we try this model in a country that's a little bit more open to the gospel? And we did. We tried that in Cuba. And we began work there back in 2000. We've been there for about 25 years. But currently we have 704 church planters in Cuba that are overseeing 6,500 churches throughout the entire island there. And we've just seen just tremendous explosive growth there that is spreading all throughout. And these churches aren't 5 to 10 people. We're talking about most of them are over 100 people, and they continue to grow, and they're impacting all different parts of the island. So it's an exciting ministry.
Wow, that's incredible. Exponential growth there. From your perspective, now you've got all of these leaders out there that are leading churches. What is it that you feel the need, or what is it that they need in the way of support? Do you find that most of them are just, man, I just need some encouragement. It's hard work. Or is it, I need better technology, or I need physical Bibles, or I need some training on preaching or leadership or whatever it is? What are you noticing out there, the trends when it comes to what leaders need?
It's an interesting thing, because I think it's more of an American thing that I think, well, I need all of this to be able to be effective.
Interesting.
We encountered there was a lady named Norma. The model that we employ is a missionary model. So we have, when I say 704 church planters, they consider and they call themselves missionaries. And so they will go to different villages, and they'll go door to door, knocking on the doors. And in Cuba, that's totally acceptable. And even they'll invite you in. Here, come in. Let's have a coffee. And they're there for a couple of hours, but you share the gospel, and people will respond. And then you begin a little discipleship group, a Bible study, which grows into a church in a short period of time. And so on one occasion, one of our missionaries, her name was Norma. Norma had three different villages where she was sharing the gospel, and she was starting up these Bible studies. And she would go between villages. She would go at night between the villages she didn't have any sort of a light to guide her, and the paths are not well lit. But she would spend the day in one village, and then towards nightfall, she would walk to the next village. She'd spend the night at someone's house there, And then she would start again the next morning, sharing the gospel in that village. And on one occasion, she there in Cuba, the way that you get around is via bus, and the buses there are a flat truck bed with the walls around it, and it's kind of a dump truck, but you climb into the back, and that's the bus there in Cuba. On one occasion, she's waiting for a bus to come by, and this truck pulls off, and she begins to climb up into the back of the truck. But as she's climbing up, the truck actually starts going out, and she's hanging on for dear life. So she hoists herself, gets in the back of the truck, and she sees it's all these men who are there, only men. And right away, she could tell that something was off. And her fears were confirmed when someone touched her from behind, and then and she turned to confront him. Someone else touched her from behind, and then she says, "You know what?" And she starts shouting out, "It is because of the sake of the gospel that I'm willing to suffer this disgrace that you're about to commit." And she said, "It's because of the gospel that I am willing to be here today, and I will," and she's talking, and she says, "It's because of the gospel." And on the third, "It's because of the gospel," these guys are all like backing off and ready to jump out of the truck. But that's the kind of woman that she is. She's just this vivacious, just full of this gospel power. And this is the type of worker that's there in Cuba. And we were sharing her story.
Wow.
We were sharing her story. My dad was sharing her story with he had a meeting with the president of Coca-Cola, who got excited about what we were doing. He said, "Listen, I want to meet Norma." And so he said, I want to fly down. I want to fly my family down. We're going to meet her. And so he had a plane. He took the plane, took my dad, and flew down to Cuba. And he sat down, and on the way, he said, "Listen, I want to give Norma a car so that she can drive between these villages." And he said, "But don't tell her. I want her to ask for it." So Dad said, "Okay, I'm not going to say anything." They both sit down with Norma, and he hears her story, and he says, "Norma, I want to give you something. What can I give you that would help you with your ministry?" Norma thought. She's like, I know. If I could just have a flashlight, then I would be good to go. And when we were just impacted. But as we talk with so many, we've got 1,700 church planters around the world, and so many of them just say, "Listen, just give me a Bible, help me a little bit to pay my bills, and I will go and I will do what is necessary all throughout." And so yeah.
That's humbling, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Here we sit around thinking, I need about 4 conferences a year. I need seminary. I need an iPad and a Mac, and then also the latest headphones. I need all this training, and before I even think about doing anything, and they're just doing it. And oh, by the way, I should probably get a flashlight. That's incredible. Yeah. Wow. Well, Manny, tell me this, because I think for all of us who are part of, the American church, we give our tithe, and we know our church is going to invest in some global efforts and those kind of things. But what does this look like from a church perspective or an individual perspective? And why should we be involved with global outreach like this? I mean, I always hear people say, "Hey, soon those countries are sending missionaries over here. Let's just focus on our own." What would you say to that? What's the need there for us to think globally rather than just locally?
Yeah, a couple things I would say. First off, to whom much is given, much is required.
That's good.
We have infinitely more resources. It's said that if you have a bed and you have a roof over your head, you're already in the top 1% of the wealthiest in the world. I don't know if that statistic is true, but I do know for a fact that I think the threshold of being in that 1% of the world's wealth is something like, if you make upwards of 20,000 or more a year, you're in the world's wealthiest category. And, I know most of us here in the U.S. fall in that category. And because most, to live an average salary here, you need to have a lot more than that. And so And we do have resources. We have so many resources. The question that I always ask people is, are you giving sacrificially to what the Lord is doing? And that leads to the second thing that I would say is that the Lord cares about the nations. It's all throughout the Bible.
Right.
He cares about the nations. And this is what he does. The Lord is all about mission. The Lord is a missional God. And he desires, 2 Peter 3:9, he desires that everyone come to a saving knowledge of Christ. And so there are so many countries around the world where that's not even close to the case. I was just in South Asia just last week, and there is immense persecution, and yet people are going out and they're sharing the gospel. They're living sacrificially because they're trying to reach out to the different people around the globe, or to the different people where they live that need to hear Christ. And so God is at work in these different places. I tell people, listen, if you connect with what God is doing globally, it's akin to you spending time with your dad, or your mom, that whoever you're close with, and you think back on a time that you actually spent quality time with them and you got close to them. You understood them better. You loved them more because of that time that you spent with your parent. God is doing this 24/7. He wants to reach people. And so often we're focused inside our churches and inside in our lives. And God's saying, well, I'm focused out there. And so you join me, you connect with me. And that's what we've seen all around. People who jump in on these mission trips, they deepen their walk with the Lord. They have a renewed understanding of what it means to follow Christ. They want to follow Christ. And that's how Jesus lived. He lived his life on mission as well.
Right. Yeah. I mean, man, what a great point. If your dad's really into hunting and you go out and sit in a deer stand with him for all morning, I mean, you're going to be close to what his, interests are. So if God's heart is for the nations, we go and do that. You're right. The people that go on these mission trips are forever changed. We don't often do a ton of work, but we certainly encourage, and it certainly changes us as well. This is such a great reminder, Manny.